let's talk Mets. Mickey Callaway gone, fired. The Mets, Brodie Van Wagenen and the Wilpons took their time, let him have his time away. And then I guess they actually went down to Florida and fired him in person, which is so nice. That's a tough look to fire a guy after 86 wins. I know he cost the Mets a bunch of wins this year, but when you have a player's manager, as I mentioned in a previous episode, like, do you want to disrupt that chemistry that he has with the players, or is he really not a player's manager like we all thought he was? So they cut him short. I don't know it would have been that damaging to have him for one more season, but now it looks like Joe Girardi's interested. As I said before, I'm all for Joe Girardi. I see no downside to that other than maybe cost, expense. They're also, and Girardi's playing it coy, but he's also said that he's done his research on the Mets. It's like, why would you bring up doing research on the Mets if you're not interested in the job? So it really comes down. My guess is it'll come down to price, cost, and the Wilpons have been notoriously stingy. But I mean, this is the time to spend. You're getting most of your core young talent back. They're going to be with you for the next 3-4 years. Now's the time to make a splash from a managerial standpoint and bring in someone who can steer the ship, who's had talent and knows how to use it. And it's Joe Girardi. Buck Showalter was mentioned, and I don't hate that. Buck's all right. He's not Joe Girardi. For some reason, I tweeted about this. Buck Showalter reminds me of Bill Belichick without all the rings. It just seems he has the kind of same look and demeanor. Of course, he has more personality, I think, at least with the press, than Bill Belichick. I wouldn't hate them getting signing Buck Showalter if Girardi goes elsewhere, but if they pick Showalter over Girardi, it's like, what are you doing, dude? Luis Rojas has also been mentioned. I don't know dick about this guy. Nope. I should have done research and I didn't. So sorry. He seems to be a candidate in the running. David Cohn, I guess, threw his hat into the ring. He was like, if I would explore it, if approached. And it's like, okay, you've been a broadcaster. I don't know that you have a ton of coaching experience. And then, of course, Carlos Beltran. And this is where it gets weird because you have, I think it was like Andy Martino, who I believe is with SNY, saying, oh, no way. Beltran wouldn't even consider it, not even thinking about it. And then like the next day being like, oh, yeah, Beltran's interested. Like, get your story straight, dude. I know you need clicks, but come on. And I'll tell you what, if I had to rank these candidates, you can go Girardi 1, Beltran 2, Showalter 3, Rojas 4, Cohen 5. Madden's definitely out of the running. I don't think Madden's going to consider New York at all. I think he's the Angels, right? Is where he's probably going to go. And then I know Clint Hurdle is available, but I don't really see him. He hasn't really been mentioned in terms for the Mets job. So Carlos Beltran would be interesting. I know there's been a really rocky relationship with the Mets. Now he's saying, like, if he goes in the Hall of Fame, he has to consider the Mets as the team he goes in with. It's like, dude, who else would you consider? The Yankees, the Royals? Like, who else? The Astros? Who else are you going to pick? Don't do that to us. So if he's looking for a way to really retcon his reputation with the Mets and the fan base, become a manager, win a World Series. That's it. Your legacy is cemented. You go in the Hall of Fame as a Mets freaking legend. Any kind of ill will or sour taste or whatever is gone. Become the manager, win a World Series. Hell, become a manager, take us to the playoffs. I think, the Mets fans, we're not that hard-nosed, hard-headed. We're pretty forgiving if you make an effort. And I think Beltran, he did so much for the team for so long and had a kind of an unceremonious end getting dealt. But I mean, him managing, imagine we re-sign Wheeler and Beltran manages us to a World Series and Wheeler's part of the rotation. That's got some feel good vibes to it. So yeah, I mean, Beltran would be interesting, but Girardi has got to be the play. And my assumption is that they're just waiting for his broadcasting to be done until they can actually sit down with him and have serious discussions. I guess that's what's going on. But he was, Girardi was asked on air about like Pete Alonso or something like that. And he ended up pleading the fifth, which, all right, touche, Joe. I see what you're doing. Getting us all riled up. Mets released a video, the top 10 moments from the 2019 season. And my memory is awful, but this video seemed pretty much on point. 10 was Robbie Cano's 3 home run game. 9 is Luis Guillorme's home run to tie the game against the Nats in the bottom of the 8th. 8 was back-to-back homers from J.D. Davis and Wilson Ramos against the Nats. There's a bunch of these just against the Nats. I think like 1, 2, 3, 4 of the 10 are against the Nationals. I guess those are like our top rivals now. For a long time, it was the Braves. It was the Phillies for I would say most of the 2000s. Mid 2000s, 05, 06, 07, 08. That was pretty intense. And then now it's the Nationals, I'd say. Noah Syndergaard's home run against the Reds is 7. Okay. 6 is Alonso's home run derby win. 5 is J.D. Davis's walk-off against the Indians in the 10th, which that was phenomenal. We got to see the shirts off walk-off. Dom Smith's 3-1 walk-off homer against the Braves in the season finale. It was his first at-bat since late July. That's number 4. Conforto's walk-off against the Nationals, which I completely forgot was his first career walk-off hit. Also shirts off walk-off. Frazier with a 3-run homer to tie the game against the Nationals, bottom 9. It's now looking like Frazier is definitely not coming back, which, kind of a bummer. Because I'd like to see him get a ring before he sails off into the sun. Rides off into the sun? Sailor ride. And Alonso breaking the rookie home run record was number 1. So I can't really argue with that list. The only one that's kind of like, meh, is Syndergaard's home run against the Reds. It's like, yeah, duh. Thor is the power. They hit a bomb. I think SNY also doled out grades for the Mets this past season. Pete Alonso got an A+, which absolutely well-deserved. Of course, what's his name? Mushnick for the New York Post just like decided to rain on everyone's parade and say, like, should we take his rookie home run record seriously? It's like, yes, dude, don't be that guy. Just be happy for Pete Alonso. How can you not be happy for Pete Alonso? How do you feel like it doesn't, you're dead inside if you didn't feel anything for Pete Alonso? The kid was excited to have the record. You could see him getting emotional in the field and even in the post-game interview with Gelbs. Just like, hop on board, dude. Unless you're not a Mets fan, unless you're a Yankees fan, which there are a lot of Yankees fans that are like so rattled by Alonso's home run record and how happy Mets fans are. Like, Yankees, just go win another series against the Twins and leave us alone, dude. Alonso also went on Stephen Colbert, and there was they had a good video where it was Colbert, who does not have great throwing motion, by the way, but throwing like random objects. It was very like David Letterman-esque, where they just drop random objects off the building, but like Colbert's throwing random objects at Alonso, and Alonso's like crushing them in slow motion. I thought that was really cool. But Colbert had the joke where it was like, look it up. Stephen Colbert, Pete Alonso, great video. Ahmed Rosario got a B+, which I agree with. His defense improved in the second half and his offense took off, became an impact player. So hopefully that carries over to 2020. Frazier got a C+. Okay, yeah. I mean, you were expecting more from him. He had a 910 OPS with runners in scoring position. I think that was huge, because I think the Mets have struggled with that for so long that it's nice to have someone that can actually do something with some ducks on the pond. Cano got a D+, which, yeah. Yeah. And he's going to continue to get D+. I mean, if you think that Robinson Cano is going to improve, I mean, he had his, career low in batting average, I think it was this year, 250 something. I mean, that's what he's going to be. He's going to be a 250 something hitter. Maybe he gives you 20 home runs. Maybe he gives you 60 to 70 RBIs. Definitely not worth 20 some odd $1 million a year. And, they interviewed Brodie Van Wagenen about this, and they said, explain it. Explain the Cano Diaz trade, dude. What were you thinking? And his response was straightforward. I wanted to win now. People weren't confident in me as a GM because I was not a GM. I was an agent. And so he wanted to come in and he wanted to put his name on this franchise. He wanted to put his stamp on this franchise and on his tenure, because he probably thinks, I don't know how long I got. I want to make the most of my limited time here. If it is limited, I'm just going to go and come in guns blazing. And so I'm going to make a big move. And so to him, he thinks, okay, Cano has been the best second baseman in Major League Baseball history, and Diaz was the best closer in the game last year. What's not to like? We had to dish Jay Bruce, who's been kind of meh here and there. Swarzak, who's been here and there, and then a couple prospects. And, when asked about one of the prospects, he's like, yeah, the guy's going to be a star in 3 to 4 years. But I wasn't thinking 3 to 4 years. I was thinking 2019. And I get that. But you also mortgaged our future, dude. You've hamstrung us. And maybe if it was just the Cano Diaz trade, it wouldn't be as bad. I'm not as bleak as some other people, but I'm more disappointed in the Lowry contract and the Familia contract. Those 2 contracts, it's like, dude, what are you thinking? Especially with McNeil coming on so strong at the end of 2018. And I know it's like those games didn't matter and we were out of it and blah, blah, blah. But Jesus. And now, most of the contracts on the books are with players that are not great. Cespedes, Familia, Cano, Lowry, Wilson Ramos got a C+ from the SNY. Offensively, he's came on. Defensively, he stinks. McNeil got an A+, obviously. Conforto a B. Conforto's got to be one of the most conflicting players on the Mets roster for sure. Has to be. You have some people calling him the Kevin McReynolds of this team. You have some people saying he's a perennial all-star. People expect him to be an all-star. We'll see. If he continues to play at that pace, great. But if he suffers another injury, slumps, it's rough. Brandon Nimmo got a C+, which I feel like you can't penalize a guy for getting injured, especially when it's a neck injury and you can't really play through it. But I'm starting to ease back on the idea that he needs to be our starting center fielder. For sure. I'm starting to, especially since there's been reports that the Mets are interested in the Pirates center fielder STARLING Marte. That's a name I could get on board with. So you put him in center, you put Nimmo in left, but then what do you do with JD Davis, dude? Dom Smith got a B, which, he made tremendous strides this year, even though he was hurt. Defensively, he was a nightmare in left field. I do not want to see him in left at all anymore, ever again. But offensively, he really picked it up. And, just from a clubhouse morale standpoint, he did wonders. So a B seems about right. Juan Lagares got a C. And I got to tell you, I don't know. I would say C- D+. The guy, if you take away that big game he had with the Grand Slam, his first ever Grand Slam and whatnot, I guess towards the end of the season, he was playing better, way better, getting on base, scoring runs. Defensively, I don't know that he had any great plays, but C seems a little high. JD Davis, A+, hell yeah. DeGrom, A+. Wheeler, B-, which I don't agree with. I think he was a B+. I don't think anyone, was it a B or B? Oh, a B. So I'd say B+, because, and the write-up says that he delivered 15 starts of 7 innings or more with occasional dominance. He was more than occasional dominating. Unless I'm misremembering, I'm pretty sure he was putting up DeGrom-esque numbers on more frequently than people remember. The beginning of the season was kind of ugh. So do you roll the dice and sign him to 4 years, $23 million a year? I guess not, because of all this arbitration. I didn't really take into consideration how much of that they're saying that I guess $50 million is now going to be put towards players in arbitration. Because I do have a lot of players in arbitration: Syndergaard, Stroman, Conforto, a few others. So I didn't really take that into consideration. I didn't think that was going to be that much of a chunk of your budget. So Steven Matz, B-. I think that's too high. I think he's a C+. I can count on, he had 30 starts, which is great, but I can count on maybe one hand, good to great games that he had. He's just too inconsistent. So B- seems high. Marcus Stroman, C+. I think that's too low. C+ seems right. He can be a B+ player, and I think that's what they're hoping for in 2020. Syndergaard gets a C, and I'd say, yeah, it stinks. But again, the guy's only 26, 27, so, he had his ups and downs. There was some article that someone put out about Garrett Cole. Here's an example, a case of someone who has a personal catcher and has worked out great for them. So maybe they could follow that blueprint with Noah. Seth Lugo gets an A. I'd say A+ in my mind. Justin Wilson, B+. Familia, F. Diaz, F. Callaway, D. And BV Dubs, D+. So I'm in agreement with all that. People are asking about Cespedes, and we still don't have any answers. I think he's going to be a trade piece. I think he's had surgery on both heels. He had the ankle. He's 34. His bat's probably still good. It's always going to be good. But his defense is going to be, his defense was starting to fall apart in 2018 anyway. So I think he's going to get traded to an AL team in need of a DH. Which team that is, I don't know, but they got to deal him. They got to trade him. You have too many capable players. I mean, you're already defensively not a great ball club. So you got to think about someone who's defensively can at least give you somewhat of a boost. And then obviously, someone who's good with the bat. And I know you're probably not going to get a lot for him, and you'll probably get burned for it. And we'll probably see him in like a friggin' Rays uniform at DH crushing balls. And we'll be like, oh, but gotta get something for him. Get a bullpen arm, get some depth in the outfield, maybe a couple bullpen arms. Diaz was 2-7 with a 5.57 ERA, 26 saves, and I don't think you give up on him yet. I think he gets an entire off season to kind of detoxify, the detox. Let's get all the bad blood out of his system, and then he comes back renewed, re-energized. Maybe the ball is different or back to what it was in 2018, and he becomes another dominant guy, gives us 50 plus saves, and that's the difference. With Wheeler probably not coming back, I guess, even though that should be a top priority, is re-signing him in my mind. If he goes, there are three. There was I forget. I think this Metsmerized Online, suggested 3 players that could replace Wheeler. One is Wade Miley, which I don't hate. Michael Pineda, which is I don't know, and then Hyunjin Ryu, which I wouldn't mind bringing that guy on board. That'd be nice. He was in talks to be a Cy Young candidate, I believe. 5 lessons the Mets can learn from playoff near miss of 2019. This is another article from SNY, I believe, possibly. Believe in your talent, stay cool, and don't overreact. Obviously, it's kind of tough to do in the New York market, but I think throughout all the nonsense that happened through this year, the fact that they were so resilient and were able to bounce back and still win games and not lose focus, and I mean, that's huge. So I think having that experience is going to be tremendously beneficial for them in 2020. The writer says that they should make bets with minor league deals or journeyman or out of favor arms. Do we need to make bets, dude? I don't know. I mean, at this point, your bullpen is in such shambles that you got to make some bets, I guess. Just hopefully something pays off. Brad Bratch might be an example of that. So that was an interesting thing. There's a $5 million team option, which the Mets probably should decline. But then there's a $1.38 million player option, which Brad could possibly pick up. And since he is a Mets guy, people seem to think that the player option will get picked up, which that would be nice. And of course, Joe Panic is also a Mets guy, so he might also stay on just to get a ring, dude, which I'm not mad at you for that. Ignore the chaos, which kind of ties in with the lesson 1, is just ignore the chaos, believe in yourself. And then the 4th one, they need to play slightly better against NL teams, especially playing them on the road. Pretty much. It's so weird because for so long they did play well on the road and then they stunk at home. And that was what cost them, postseason runs or postseason berths in the past. And now it's flipped. But I think this last lesson is the one is so key. Don't just hope the status quo will mature into a championship. So let's not rest on the laurels of this season. Even though we didn't make the playoffs, I think a lot of people would view this season not so much as a disappointment. I think there were some people who thought we would get 90 wins, and we probably should have got 90 wins. So in that respect, it's somewhat disappointing. But at the same time, there's a lot of hope for the future. But don't think that this current roster that you have in place is going to win 90 next year. Tweak it just a little bit here and there to ensure, and you're basically buying insurance. Okay. The current roster can get you wins. Yes. But you got to buy insurance to plug the little leaks in the dam. And if you do that and you be smart about it, you don't make some stupid big signing. And I think this is what the writer was saying, make bets here and there with players that could work out, that fell out of favor somewhere else and need to change location, change your scenery. Okay, I get that. And maybe, you don't make the huge splashes, but you do make the nice, smart, small ball moves, muddy ball moves for areas in which you're lacking. Just put the Band-Aids on the right bruises or scrapes and wounds, and you're in a good spot. Just don't do anything. I mean, you got to do something in the manager spot. Obviously, bring in Girardi. That'd be a great start. And then Girardi must have his guys that he's familiar with or comfortable with, that he can work with Brodie and Wilpon and say, you know, I know this guy. I wanted him with the Yankees, couldn't get him. I think we can get him with the Mets because XYZ. Boom. And then watch the winds roll in, baby.